CHAPTER XIV Of the Money Moon. The Money Moon, a Romance by Geoffrey Farnell. CHAPTER XIV Which, among other things, has to do with shrimps, muffins, and tin whistles. A typical Kentish village is Dapplemere, with its rows of scattered cottages bowered in roses and honeysuckle, white-walled cottages with steep pitched roofs, and small latticed windows that seem to stare at all and sundry like so many winking eyes. There is an air redolent of ripening fruit, and hops, for Dapplemere is a place of orchards, and hop gardens, and rick yards, while, here and there, the sharp-pointed, red-tiled roof of some oast house pierces the green. Though Dapplemere village is but a very small place indeed, nowadays, yet it possesses a church, grey and ancient, whose massive Norman tower looks down upon gable and chimney, upon roof of thatch and roof of tile, like some benignant giant keeping watch above them all. Near by, of course, is the inn, a great, rambling, comfortable place, with time-worn settles beside the door, and with a mighty sign a-swinging before it, upon which, plainly to be seen, when the sun catches it fairly, is that which purports to be a likeness of His Majesty King William the Fourth of glorious memory. But alas! the colours have long since faded, so that now, upon a dull day, it is a moot question whether His Majesty's nose was of the Greek or Roman order, or indeed whether he was blessed with any nose at all. Thus, time and circumstances have united to make a ghost of the likeness, as they have done of the original long since, which, fading yet more and more, will doubtless eventually vanish altogether, like King William himself, and leave but a vague memory behind. Now, before the inn was a small crowd gathered about a trap in which sat two men, one of whom Bellew recognized as the red-necked Corn chandler Grimes, and the other the rat-eyed Parsons. The Corn chandler was mopping violently at his face and neck, down which ran, and to which clung, a foamy substance suspiciously like the froth of beer, and, as he mopped, his loud, brassy voice shook and quavered with passion.
"I tell ye, you shall get out of my cottage," he was saying. "I say you shall quit my cottage at the end of the month, and when I says a thing I means it. I say you shall get off of my property, you and that beggarly cobbler. I say you shall be throwed out of my cottage, lock, stock, and barrel. I say—" "I wouldn't, Mr. Grimes, leastways, not if I was you," another voice broke in, calm and deliberate. "No, I wouldn't go for to say another word, sir, because if you do say another word, I know a man as will drag you down, and out of that cart, sir. I know a man as will break your whip over your very own back, sir. I know a man as will then take and heave you into the horse pond, sir, and that man is me, Sergeant Appleby, late of the 19th Hussars, sir."
The Corn chandler, having removed most of the froth from his head and face, stared down at the straight, alert figure of the big Sergeant, hesitated, glanced at the Sergeant's fist which, though solitary, was large and powerful, scowled at the Sergeant from his polished boots to the crown of his well-brushed hat, which perched upon his close-cropped, grey hair at a ridiculous angle totally impossible to any but an ex-cavalry man, muttered a furious oath, and, snatching his whip, cut viciously at his horse, very much as if that animal had been the Sergeant himself, and, as the trap lurched forward, he shook his fist, and nodded his head.
"Out you go, at the end of the month, mind that!"
he snarled, and so rattled away down the road, still mopping at his head and neck, until he had fairly mopped himself out of sight. "Well, Sergeant," said Bellew, extending his hand, "how are you?"
"Hearty, sir, hearty, I thank you, though, at this precise moment, just a leetle put out, sir. None the less, I know a man as is happy to see you, Mr. Bellew, sir, and that's me, Sergeant Appleby, at your service, sir. My cottage lies down the road yonder, an easy march, if you will step that far. Speaking for my comrade and myself, we shall be proud for you to take tea with us, muffins, sir, shrimps, Mr. Bellew, also a pikelet or two. Not a great feast, but tolerable good rations, sir, and plenty of 'em. What do you say?"
I say done, and thank you very much." So, without further parley, the Sergeant saluted divers of the little crowd, and, wheeling sharply, strode along beside Bellew, rather more stiff in the back, and fixed of eye than was his wont, and jingling his imaginary spurs rather more loudly than usual. "You will be wondering at the tantrums of the man Grimes, sir, of his ordering me and my comrade Peterday out of his cottage, sir. I tell you, in 2 words, it's all owing to the sale, up at the farm, sir. You see, Grimes is a great hand at buying things uncommonly cheap, and selling 'em uncommonly dear. To day, it seems, he was disappointed." "Ah?" said Bellew. "At exactly 23 minutes to 6, sir," said the Sergeant, consulting his large silver watch, "I were sitting at my usual corner, beside the chimley, sir, when in comes Grimes, like a thunder cloud, calls for a pint of ale, in a tankard. Tom draws pint, which Tom is the landlord, sir. 'Buy anything at the sale, Mr. Grimes?' says Tom. 'Sale!' says Grimes, 'sale indeed!' and falls a cursing, folk up at the farm, shocking, outrageous, ends by threatening to foreclose mortgage within the month, upon which I raise a protest, upon which he grows abusive, upon which I was forced to pour his ale over him, over which I ran him out into the road, and there it is, you see." "And he threatened to foreclose the mortgage on Dapplemere Farm, did he, Sergeant?" "Within the month, sir, upon which I warned him. In parlour, no place, ladies' private money troubles, gaping crowd, damn it!" "And so he is turning you out of his cottage?" "Within the week, sir, but then, beer down the neck, he's rather unpleasant." And here the Sergeant uttered a short laugh, and was immediately grave again. "It isn't," he went on, "it isn't as I mind the inconvenience of moving, sir, though I shall be mighty sorry to leave the old place, still, it isn't that so much as the small corner cupboard, and my bookshelf by the chimley. There never was such a cupboard, sir, there never was a cupboard so well calculated to hold a pair of jack boots, not to mention spurs, highlows, burnishers, shoulder chains, polishing brushes, and a boot jack, as that same small corner cupboard. As for the bookshelf beside the chimley, sir, exactly 3 foot 3, sunk in a recess, height the 3rd button of my coat, capacity 14 books. You couldn't get another book on that shelf, no, not if you tried with a sledge hammer, or a hydraulic engine, which is highly surprising, when you consider that 14 books is the true and exact number of books as I possess." "Very remarkable!" said Bellew. "Then again, there's my comrade, Peterday." The Sergeant pronounced it as though it were all one word. "Sir, my comrade Peterday is a very remarkable man. Most cobblers are. When he's not cobbling, he's reading; when not reading, he's cobbling, or mending clocks, and watches, and betwixt this and that, my comrade has picked up a power of information, though he lost his leg a doing of it, in a gale of wind, off the Cape of Good Hope, for my comrade was a sailor, sir. Consequently, he is a handy man, most sailors are, and makes his own wooden legs, sir. He is also a musician, the tin whistle, sir, and here we are." Saying which, the Sergeant halted, wheeled, opened a very small gate, and ushered Bellew into a very small garden bright with flowers, beyond which was a very small cottage indeed, through the open door of which there issued a most appetizing odour, accompanied by a whistle, wonderfully clear and sweet, that was rendering Tom Bowling, with many shakes, trills, and astonishing runs. Peterday was busied at the fire with a long toasting fork in his hand, but, on their entrance, breaking off his whistling in the very middle of a note, he sprang nimbly to his feet, or rather his foot, and stood revealed as a short, yet strongly built man, with a face that, in one way, resembled an island in that it was completely surrounded by hair and whisker, but it was, in all respects, a vastly pleasant island to behold, despite the somewhat craggy prominences of chin, and nose, and brow. In other words, it was a